Hey, how are you?
We made it.
I
Good. Do
know.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Ah, okay. Perfect. Fantastic.
Oh, so how are you?
Good, good, good. Very good. I mean, sitting here with a Belgian beer, Nicaraguan cigar. I don't know what you want one?
Yeah, yeah. Let's just
Grab
pass it
it,
through.
grab it, grab it.
Pass it through the video. Can't wait till we have that technology.
Almost, 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 almost.
So for you, it's the end of the day. I'm still in the middle of my day.
Yes, it is. The end. I mean, let's see. It's the beginning of the end.
Yes, it's close. I have a couple more hours to go, but
Yeah,
oh,
indeed.
well, it's so nice
Voilà.
to see you. I know it's been a bit of a while. I think I saw you maybe briefly at last year's IPCR.
Yes, indeed, 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 we did. Yeah, and I think 2 years ago for the first time, and last year for sure as well.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since our last encounter?
Uh, I've been married, made 3 children. No, no, that's already a little bit longer ago than that. But no, no, yeah, since our last encounter, I mean, locked up at home for since a while. Um, and before that, I mean, I think this year with the cigars, we were very proud to announce that we are a crowd farmer now in Nicaragua as well, which we were indirectly, but not really in the way that we are now. So that was quite some big news this year. But in general, doing very fine and a happy family, parents alive and kicking, 2 older sisters that are fine as well. So we're a happy man.
Yeah, because your dad is still kind of around in the business. I know there's a lot of pictures of him still being quite involved. Is that the case?
He's the best chairman you can imagine. No, he's really a guy that has been around in the business for more than 50 years. I mean, we don't really have Hall of Fames in Europe, but I think he would deserve a place in there. And now he's not active, let's say, of let's say being day to day in the business and walking around, blah blah. So he's really coming 4 times a year, of which once was yesterday, where we have a kind of meeting where I mean, discuss things, and then he's really saying what he thinks. And during the year as well, when the figures come out at the end of the month, I mean, he's the first one to react. When we come out with new cigars, he's the first one to taste. So he's really, I mean, he's very close, but at the other hand, he really leaves a lot of freedom to me as well to do what I want to do. I mean, so when things are not at all the way he likes it, he will say it 200%. But at the end of his sentence, he would say like, "I don't like what you do, and this is really not how I would do it, and this is not good, and this is not good, and that's not good." And at the end, he will say like, "But it's your business." So then it's like, okay, daddy. But it helps. I mean, it keeps you awake, and it makes sure that you are. I mean, yeah, that you're sharp and that you know what you're doing. Wait, I will get my cutter if I
Okay.
can. Not to be here stuck with the. Where are you, Antoine? You're at home?
Yes. So I'm in North Carolina and just bunkered down at home. So home has become my office, my studio, my a little bit of everything. So it's been a nice. I've been very productive though. So I think
No.
as of yesterday, about 18 of these different conversations with different people. And I mean,
I really feel like unique.
yeah. So, it's
Number 18.
It's completely a different experience, but I feel like I'm making the best use of my time here. So, and being under quarantine and taking advantage of being able to kind of speak to people like you who normally probably would be very busy during this time of year and, getting ready for the summer and all the big releases that come out over the summer. So it's been an adjustment, but it's been nice.
No, but I think also I mean, congratulations with the thing that
Okay.
you're doing, because I think it's great. I mean, to have, yeah, I mean, to find a way out so that people, I mean, I feel it also when we had already from time to time some cigars online with some like importers in some countries. Like last week there was one with Lebanon, and we had one in Belgium. We had one, and it's really great to have like these, yeah, I mean, social things via internet,
Yes.
where I mean people can relax, enjoy a cigar for an hour, and at least forget a little bit what's going on. Because I think it's a crazy world, and the things that you are offering is really like a moment off, you know. I mean, and a moment that people tend to forget what is going on, you know, because it's like it's not it's crazy.
Yeah, and what I found too is, I know one day during quarantine, I was going through all my cigars and organizing them, and I was like, there's so many cigars out there. There's no way that a, the normal cigar smoker has gone through every cigar and every brand that's out there. And usually they kind of stick to one or two brands that they really like, and they don't go outside of that for whatever reason. So I was like, with this, I was like, why don't I, bring in some of the people that I've spoken to over the years and I know and consider to be friends, and kind of tell your story in a different way. Because usually I'm telling stories, through a magazine. And that's just one form of storytelling, though. Like these days, it's this interactive. So almost like, we're bringing them into this conversation that, we would usually have maybe at a trade show, like, to ourselves with one or two other people, but letting them interact and ask questions and get to know the people behind the brands and the brands a little bit better. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit here and speak with me for an hour or so. And
It's
I hope
my wife you have to thank, because she's now alone in the living room instead of having me next to her. But okay, we had already a lot of romantic nights, so I think that we can survive one without being together.
So I know from the first time that we met and we spoke at IPSPR that you told kind of your story. And I don't know if a lot of people know your story or they know Jay Cortès and the Oliva connection, because it's been a few years, and I know that relationship is strong, but it's not always kind of part of the marketing for Oliva. So I wanted to kind of introduce people to you and your story, and then kind of tell them what the connection is with how Jay Cortès came to acquire Oliva, and how you've, grown together over the years since you've announced that partnership.
Okay, we're I'm born on a tobacco leaf, virtually, not literally, of course. So we're a family that is since 3 generations in tobacco. I've seen some of my cousins over here. I mean, who are part of other uncles and aunts who joined the session I've seen, and so my grandfather started making cigars in 1926, so close to 100 years ago, and at that period in time, he was a sexton in the church. So he played the piano in the church. But I think it was a moment where maybe the income of the church was going down. So he had to look for some other income. And he had so he bought a little shop, and he ran a little shop with cigars and with other stuff as well. I mean, other products, more products that came, let's say, from the Dutch colonies and things like that. So I mean, the shop with among everything, but also cigars. And at a certain moment, I don't know why, that the why question is something that I cannot answer, but he started making cigars himself. And he bought 4 little machines to make cigars at his attic, and to sell these cigars in a shop. You would say like, oh, I mean, he was unique. No, he wasn't at all. In Belgium, in that period of time, I think you had, I mean, we're only 10 million people, so we're in New York City, let's say, and you had over 200 cigar makers in Belgium. I mean, maybe 300. So imagine, I mean, 300 cigar makers in New York. I mean, it was also in the period in the 50s, it was a bit similar. But so people were making cigars, and they sold them locally, brandless. Then he started with a little brand and tried to sell in other cities. And okay, he was active day and night, made a lot of children, 8 children in total. of which my dad was the last one. But all his, I mean, 5 of his 8 children became active in that business. And we lived in a region that was quite rural, you know, so you really had to fight for for the money and fight for the things that you had to do every day. So nothing was really given, but they did it in a fantastic way. And they were among brothers and even brothers-in-law. They really looked all together into kind of the same direction, and everybody had a different job. Marie Lecotte, who's here, I mean, her grandfather was one who's buying tobacco. Then another one was more like doing the production, and another one was doing sales. So a real typical family business, as we have quite many here in the region. And going behind, you know, I mean, going the extra mile for everything what they did. And my dad was the youngest one, and you know what I like about the family history is that everybody respected the other party. So when my dad came in, you know, I mean, one brother was doing the purchase, one other was doing already sales in Belgium, another one was doing production. So he said, like, look, I mean, I will try to do something where I add value without disturbing the other ones. Because I think, I mean, you will feel in our history, you know, values and trying to understand the others and trying to respect the others is quite important. So he started selling also, so doing more, he was more sales and marketing as, I mean, education, but also as his core. And he started selling outside of Belgium. So in Luxembourg, you know, which is even 10 times smaller than Belgium, but okay, we could export for the first time. And then to France, and then the Canary Islands, and I mean, to other places. So we really pushed sales to other countries. But what he felt, what we missed a lot was a brand. You know, we didn't have a brand. And then he continued and he thought about it. And I think it was his little marketing side, you know, I mean, which had the idea, I mean, to create brands, but also to think like, look, maybe there are brands around that we can polish up, that we can sell better the way that they're sold now, or maybe that you can just buy because of circumstances. And as such, in the 70s, we acquired 2 companies, of which one was Neos, which made small cigarillos, but which was a big company of a family, but the family wanted to sell because of family reasons. And so we solved the family problem. And at the other hand, in the 70s as well, we bought the brands out of a bankruptcy of a company, of which one of the brands was J. Cortès. J. Cortès was not at all blue. J. Cortès was green. And my dad, together with his brothers, turned it into the blue box, which in our region, you know, in the US, it's not known. But in our region, which is quite known as a very high-end, premium machine-made cigar. So you can compare it with the Ashton machine-made cigars you find in the US, you know, so these are high-end premium machine-made cigars. It's not a handmade, but it's still 100% tobacco made on machines. And the reason it's made on machines, it's also historically in our region, you know, the Spanish brought in the tobacco, the Spanish brought in the Cuban cigars and all the handmade cigars into Europe in the 1400s. And the more you came to the north, the more you came in cold regions. So the less people had time to smoke these big cigars. And secondly, also, I mean, in the northern regions, people always had the tendency to be more, I mean, picky on what they spent in terms of money. So they didn't want to spend too much money. So if they could enjoy a small cigarillo or cigar for less money, I mean, they would do it as well. So that's how the tendency came to make smaller cigars or cigarillos. And that's how they started also to think like, yeah, but if you make these small cigars, you cannot roll them by hand. You have to cut the tobacco. So it becomes short filler. And with a short filler, it's also easier to mechanize it. And as such, I mean, you really came into the process of machine-made cigars. And it's a history for me that is important, because when you see machine-made cigars and little cigars in the US, they have not always a positive connotation, say that way.
All right.
And they're seen as brown cigarettes. And I do think that machine-made cigars, 100% tobacco, I mean, do deserve still a kind of respect, because it's also not easy to make such a cigar. You also have to blend it. You also have to look for the binding, for the wrapper. It's just made on a machine and not by hand. There is a price difference as well, you know. But okay, so that's how things went. And I think, look, I mean, the most entrepreneurial steps surely have been made. My grandfather, who started it, you know, I mean, he was a startup, you know, I mean, that's like you have many startups now and many different businesses, but it was a startup in cigars. And then my dad with his brothers were really entrepreneurial in the 70s by acquiring other companies, you know, I mean, by putting their own house and their household in danger by the acquisition of these companies. And then, you know, I mean, what we also did as a family was like, yeah, okay, the moment we started to earn some money and to grow these brands, we always reinvested the money in the company as well. So reinvesting by having salespeople on the road, by having, I mean, really guys day by day on the road who are selling our products, but not only in Belgium, but then also in France. So now we have 40 plus people in France, but we started with 4. You know, so 4, and then, okay, we have some money. Yes, okay, take number 5, take number 6. So really a step-by-step evolutionary kind of success story. I mean, we can be proud of what we built in the machine-made segment. And then I personally, I mean, I entered in 2010 into the business, 2006, excuse me, into the business, even 2004. I'm getting old. But we had a Roy Roan company as well. I worked over there for 2 years, then I went to Sri Lanka for 4 years, and then since 2010 I'm back in Europe, and I worked into that machine-made segment. But that's a bit in short, but already long. There's a history, let's say, of our family in the tobacco business.
Did you always think that you would enter the business, or did you have desires to do something completely different?
No and no. I think I was never, to me personally, you know, I mean, it was never that I would be, it's when you're born in a family business, you're born in it. So if it's me or my sisters or my cousins or whoever who are maybe not active in the business anymore today, everybody has part of his body that is made out of tobacco. When you're small, your dad is coming home. When you're going to family parties, it's one dust, you know, one dust, one smoke, one room full of smoke, of everybody smoking cigars. Everywhere you go, you take cigars. Everyone you meet, you know, I mean, you offer cigars. So you have tobacco in your veins. So it's part of yourself, but that's not me who's different than the others, you know. And then, but was it, okay, so that means that, look, I mean, you always have it in you, inside of you. I mean, if you're now in the business or not in the business. But it's not that I, let's say, specifically chose at 12 years old what to study, or at 18 years old what to study. Okay, it was economics at 80 years old, and I mean, I went to university, so, okay, at the end of the day, it was interesting to run the business. But it was also because it was interesting me in C as a whole, you know, I mean, and not because I wanted, look, I mean, don't let me paint, you know, I mean, don't let me do a lot of things with my hands, you know, I mean, I'm not very, my wife can admit, you know, I'm not so handy, and yeah, okay, I mean, that's not my strength, you know, I mean, I love to be with people, and okay, I mean, that economical side, just to understand how things go, is also interesting for me. And then on top of that, of course, when you're born with that tobacco leaf in your veins, you know, you love from young, you know, I mean, legal smoking age, well, no, that's not true. I mean, even illegal smoking age, you know, you're sometimes embedded in that tobacco and you try, but it's only when I was 22, after university, 23 plus, that you really, when you're in that tobacco, that you learn also how to taste and how to smell and how to do these things. So it's then a combination of everything that is there. But I don't think that I really had wanted to do specifically something else. But also, I mean, when I ended university, I have to say I was looking for another job the day that my dad called to say, like, hey, I mean, we maybe have a position for you. It was quite a funny story because he said, like, yeah, I have a position, I mean, in our own company for a guy that I maybe will fire in 6 months. Because I don't know if that business segment will still exist. I say, okay, I mean, that will not be easy to find. He said, like, yeah, I know who I will take. I said, like, okay, yeah, you will do that. Said, okay. Thank you for the confidence. But anyhow, you know, and that's how I ended up in the business. I didn't do something else before. That's true. And I always was aware of that because I was a little bit afraid. You know, I mean, you're the son of the owner, you're starting in that business. I mean, what are your credentials? You know, I mean,
Right.
what can you, I mean, offer to the others except of being the son of the owner, you know? So I always have been, I try to be very skeptical and I mean, difficult to myself as well to make sure that, I mean, that credentials are earned and not really because of you're part of the family.
Now, at what point did Oliva come into the picture for Jay Cortès?
So Jay Cortès was like I said, an acquisition in the 70s that my dad and his brothers-in-law, I mean, made into the blue box, and they made it into a success. You know, I mean, nothing to do with me. They made it into the local success. You know, I mean, Belgium, France, a bit Spain, a bit Italy. You know, I mean, but okay, those are really the countries where with Jay Cortès and with Neos as a company became big. That's only, I mean, inherited, and that's something that I started to run the business in 2010. I came back to Belgium and started over there. But when I came back from Sri Lanka, I worked 4 years in Sri Lanka, and we have a plant in Sri Lanka who's processing tobacco. I worked in that processing plant, and we're processing tobacco for ourselves, but also for third parties. So I got to know a lot of leaf buyers and a lot of companies. And when I came to Belgium, I mean, thanks to my dad, I had the opportunity to meet many of our colleagues in the cigar business, in the European cigar business. So, I mean, the Wintermans family from Agio, I mean, others, I mean, fantastic. So in a way, I mean, I quickly, in a year, 2 years, I mean, I did the tour in Europe, which was fantastic, very interesting, met some great people in the European cigar business. But, yeah, I mean, I have to say that in Europe we were talking a lot about legislation, a lot about problems, you know. I mean, and it's not that I always came back with a heart full of passion, you know, about tobacco. You know, the things that I lived in Sri Lanka with working the tobacco and listening to the tobacco, that was great. At a certain moment, that was the moment that China became like an interesting market. So I went to China on a trip. But okay, I mean, over there, I mean, I was also disappointed because it was only about the numbers and not really about the real passion. And okay, so but very interesting trip. I learned a lot. And I was together with I did the trip together with a tobacco guy. And we always have been a manufacturer of machine-made cigars, but we always dreamt of the handmade segment. It's like being a car producer, you know, I mean, and dreaming of being able to make a Ferrari or a Maserati. And that's, okay, that's something, it's a dream. It's something that is there far away out, you know, I mean, that even without that dream, you can survive, you know, I mean, and even if you don't fulfill your dream, it is what it is. But, okay, that's one part. So we were really dreaming of one day launching maybe a handmade cigar, and we even tried in the 90s, but it didn't succeed then. And so we had a big learning curve as well, because why it didn't succeed and things like that. Anyhow, after the trip in China, the leaf buyer said, like, Fred, if I hear you talking about the passion about tobacco and all these things, you're at the wrong side of the globe. You know, I mean, you have to go to the other side. Go to the Middle Americas. Have you really visited Cuba? Yes, I've been to Cuba. I have been to Dominican. Yes. But more to Varadero and to Puerto Plata, but not to Santiago and the tobacco region. I mean, in Cuba, neither to Nicaragua. So with his brother, who was also a leaf seller, you know, so somebody in the trade of tobacco leaves, we did a trip in the Middle Americas. And during close to a month, we visited plenty of cigar manufacturers over there. Over 30 that we visited. And yeah, you know, I mean, you meet the guys that you all know in the US, that we sometimes in Europe don't know or didn't know that well. You know, I mean, we're grown up in the handmade segment with the Cubans, you know, so the Cubans have a fantastic history, story, great cigars. But I mean, it's less personal than it is, I mean, with the cigar business in the Middle Americas, which are mostly the ex-Cubans, let's say, who went over there. My God, you meet with families who are 3 generations, 5 generations in tobacco, as well in cigars. When you meet them, I mean, no second we were talking about legislation. It was 2012, you know, I mean, before the whole FDA things changed as well, but okay. And it was, I came back really with batteries filled of energy, you know, overfilled, you know, just by, it was great, really fantastic. I mean, meeting these guys, having cigars with them, talking about tobacco, talking about blends, talking about the things that they do. It was like, yeah, I mean, I lived the dream for a month. But okay, you know, you're back in business, back home, you have to do the things that you have to do. So we continue to work, but it continuously was in my mind. So I said, like, you know what, I mean, I cannot, when I see these guys, I cannot launch a handmade cigar. You know, I mean, that's just impossible. You know, who am I? These guys are making cigars for 3 generations, in tobacco 5 generations as well. We're in tobacco as well. We're very good in what we do, but we knew what we knew, but I also knew what we didn't know. So I said, like, my idea was, why not making a cigar together with one of these families? And there were a couple of families where we got very well along with, you know, I mean, that became really friends. And so at a certain moment, I started talking to them. 2014, I mean, in 2013, I went back to Nika, to Domrep, 14 as well. You know, I mean, you meet these guys again. At a certain moment, I said, like, you know what, I have an idea. Hey, let's make a cigar together. You know, I mean, I'm in Europe, you're in the US, let's say. Hey, we make a cigar together. We make that a story of 2 families. And among the families that I wanted to do this was the family Oliva. And look, I mean, so it's thanks to that leaf seller that I got in touch with them, which was also great. But then when we were in that discussion, I said to the family, to the Olivas, I said, like, look, I mean, I really will do everything I can to make sure that this cigar is a hit in Europe and in the markets where we're strong. Because it's not only Europe, or, I mean, worldwide, we're selling, we have our network. I said, I really think I can do that. But you have to assure that if one day, you know, I mean, you sell, yeah, that you don't do that in the coming 2 years to one of the big guys. Otherwise, the story of 2 families is over. You know, I mean, we have to build something really together. And okay, you know, I mean, okay, we went on with the development. But at a certain moment, I mean, Jose and Gilberto and everybody, but Jose was like the spokesperson, called me and he said, like, Fred, our project, I mean, don't believe in it. We have to cancel it. I'm like, why? You know, I mean, it's real to really work out. No. I mean, we as a family, you know, I mean, we made our decision. I mean, we will not continue together as brothers and sisters. We will sell the company. And also a very strong way as a family to decide, you know, I mean, to say as a family, like, look, I mean, no, we prefer number 1 is the family. And that's what they really said, you know, I mean, nothing will come in between us and nobody else will buy the shares of another one. We really want, or we sell it or we stay in, and we decided we will sell. So in the beginning, I was a little bit disappointed because you say, like, yeah, I mean, oh my God, I mean, the work we did and everything, blah, blah. But then I thought, like, yeah, okay, I don't know, let's make it an opportunity, you know, I mean, and see if we can do something. And so as such, we got involved, and I asked, like, yeah, I mean, can we be involved in that sale process, or how does it work, and blah, blah. He said, like, yeah, you can try, but I mean, and so, okay, we tried, and long story short, I mean, after some bumps in the road, we were like the chosen one. First we weren't, but finally we were the chosen family. And I think that also for them, having a family who bought it, who was not active yet in the US or in the handmade cigar business, made a lot of sense. Because, okay, we didn't have a factory, we didn't have salespeople. I mean, there was nothing that could make it. I mean, nobody had to leave the company, I mean, because of the fact that they sold. And I'm very proud now that 4 years approximately after date, in June it will be 4 years, that we can really say that of the core team, everybody is still there. And that the guys that always worked with the Olivas now work with us and can admit, or I mean, you have to ask them, but at least when they stay, it's already a positive sign. But who say, like, look, indeed, Fred, I mean, you always said, like, nothing will change. Indeed, nothing changed. You know, I mean, we still feel like the family vibes in the company. And okay, we try to listen. I don't say nothing changed. I mean, we did change some things, but we always change for the best. And I think we did things that the Olivas would do as well, you know. And Jose supported us a lot. I mean, he was CEO for 2 years. He did a tremendous job. I mean, to get the company where it was now. Then Corey took over as a CEO. But still, I mean, even Carlos, who was not involved afterwards, always has been very open. With Ginny, I meet up as well. And then Gilberto is still, I mean, actively involved as well in terms of blending and in terms of developing new cigars together with us, so that we can, it feels like you learn it from your dad, you know. I mean, when you're sitting together with the Olivas, it's like when we sold the company, I got the humidor of the Melanio Figurado of 2014. That was Cigar of the Year. They made like 100 exclusive humidors. I got humidor number 6. Okay, I said like, yeah, beautiful. I'm very happy. Fantastic humidor. But the story was, Jose and the family said like, look, we're 5 at home. Your brother number 6. I mean, you're number 6. And it's not only by giving that, they also showed it in everything that we have been doing together afterwards. So, and it's true. I mean, okay, we carry their name. It's their name that we continue to try to put down in the world, and that we want to continue to make great cigars because they made it. But at the other hand, they also always supported us in the way that they could support us.
So like when you're, because I know usually when you talk acquisitions, you know, people get scared because they talk about or they fear what you just kind of touched on. They fear that the company that bought the other company is going to come in, they're going to make all these changes. You know, the brand that you know or the product that you know is going to change. But I remember that press release when it came out, and it had the quote in there from you, and you said nothing's going to change. You know, we're going to let this. It's already established. We're just going to give it the support that it needs. I mean, so what's your philosophy when you're looking at different companies to either partner with or acquire? I mean, what are you kind of looking for? And then once you do make that acquisition, I mean, what's your approach to supporting it? And like you said, not messing it up, I guess.
Look, I'm not the king of acquisitions. We acquired Oliva, and it's funny that even still now in the US, I'm still very happy. You know, I mean, that people often talk about a partnership. You know, because in a way that's, even though, I mean, I'm very well aware we also sold one company once, and I felt what it was to sell. It's difficult. It's not easy. It's saying goodbye to a baby. I have older sisters. Their kids are not married yet, but they're 20. The oldest one is 26, for example. I can imagine when you have to let go your daughter or your son, you know, who gets married. It's also a kind of goodbye, you know. I mean, it's still part of you, but it's not part of you anymore, you know. I mean, they can do whatever they want, and then sometimes they will do things that you don't like. But you hope that you gave them the right direction so that they will do the right things. Now, with Oliva, it was, again, you know, I mean, acquiring to acquire is something that I think is not making sense, you know. I mean, for us, for some companies, it surely does, you know. I mean, and it all depends in what way you see things. I see myself, when you have a long chain, I mean, I see myself as chain number 3 of hopefully a long chain. You know, I mean, I'm 3rd generation. So, I mean, maybe there are hopefully many behind. If you're 3rd generation, you got something and you're looking forward to give it forward to somebody else. But maybe, you know, maybe a reason will force me to sell as well. You never know. But my main goal is not to do that, and to continue a story that I got from the family. I'm lucky that I was the youngest of the youngest brother, and that as such, you know, I mean, I got the opportunity to be active in the business, but also to be able to acquire the shares of the other family members. My sisters also gave me the opportunity to buy their shares so that I could continue on my own. I really have a long-term vision without any problems of the family. Because often with the family business, I think the strongest side of the family business is the family. but it's immediately the weakest side. You know, so if things are not going well in the family, in a family business, the business will feel it immediately. If things are going well, the business will also feel it. So I think that because we're a family business, we're grown out of the family business, we have lived stories within our family business, but at the end of the day, we still get along as a family, and we have a successful business. As such, I think I got to understand in my youth and when I grew up what it is to be part of that family, and therefore, you know, I mean, when we acquired it, it was clearly an add-on. You know, so it's not an acquisition to do an acquisition. No, I mean, it was, as I told you, you know, if you would have told me in 2014, 2 years before that, like, Fred, you will be the owner of Oliva 2 years from now, I would say, like, Antoine, you're crazy. You know, I mean, it's impossible. You know, I mean, I hope that I can make a cigar with them. Yes, but I will never be. I mean, I don't believe that I will be able to buy them. So in that, I think that was also a positive way to be in that story. You know, I mean, there was no pressure. There was no reason to really have pressure to do it, and as such, it went very, very natural. Secondly, I do think that the values of our family and of the Olivas are very similar. I do think within the cigar business, there are not a lot of families where I would say that the families do not fit. You know, I mean, many families who are grown up in the cigar business have, for me, the values that are very similar to ours, and that are positive and long term. You know, I mean, and thinking about the people working within your business, knowing that it's not about you, but about, I mean, the people making the cigars and the whole crowd you work together. So having the same values in the company you acquire, I think is also, it's key, but it felt like natural. It's also, again, I mean, it's not me looking for who's the company with the closest values. No, it's just like you meet a lot of people, and with these families you get along. I mean, okay, and as such, I mean, it came out. So, okay, I didn't answer your question directly, but I think that I believe that doing an acquisition just for the fact of doing an acquisition is not the good thing to be in. I think that things, yes, the numbers have to fit, have to be correct. You don't have to do crazy things. I mean, we always learn to be respectful to the banks if you earn money, if you get money from them. So you have to have your respect for the people around you. And when you acquire it, you also have to respect the people who are over there. And that's something that I took very close to me, because it's a double game, you know. These guys now have to report to you and not anymore to the family. The family was there every week, every 2 weeks, you know. So in the factories in Tabulisa, Gilberto, Carlos, they were every month. They were there twice a week. Fantastic people. Okay, I mean, if then they are not there anymore, I mean, it's not easy, you know. So you have to try to look. I mean, I tried to look. I don't say you have to, but I tried to look at that moment to say, like, look, guys, okay, we cannot turn around the page. It changed, you know. I mean, the owner is different. But now let's look, what do you think can make the factory better? What do you think can make us, you know, I mean, better? And that was not at all the quality, the cigars. It were little stupid, little things that, I mean, seems logical. But by listening to them and by saying, like, okay, go ahead, implement it. And so as such, we gave a lot of independence to the guys over there. But of course, as well, with a certain control. You know, I mean, you're at the other side of the ocean. You cannot let it go and say, like, go ahead, guys, do what you want. You know, so I try to go from time to time, but still, I mean, it's only a couple of times a year to Nicaragua and 4 or 5 times a year to the US. But yeah, I mean, I also was lucky, of course, that the guys working for the Olivas were fantastic people. You know, I mean, with the great mindset, but also going forward and willing to work, willing to grow and to make the business better. And, you know, I mean, it's not always bigger, but at least better. And giving them, what we did was giving them that freedom, and then having some control, which was, okay, my visit, but then also, I mean, on the leave side, we have somebody from our side who know a lot about it, who's visiting them. Then on the financial side, you have some guys who are coming over. So it's like, yeah, freedom, but kind of controlled freedom from far away. You know what I mean? But I think when you give that freedom, independence, that power to the guys to to do their story, and if you look now 4 years down the road, my God, what they did, it's amazing. It's really tremendous.
Yeah, because I definitely, I mean, I on the magazine side, I mean, we work closely with Corey and Ian in marketing, and you know, they talk about how you have given them that freedom to do what they need to do in order to keep that Oliva brand alive and going. So I think they appreciate that space that you've given them, and it kind of shows because, you know, when you have one of those bosses that are really on your case, it shows in your work one way or another. But for them, I mean, they always seem pretty pleased with that space that you've given them to do what they need to do. And I mean, you've had successes over in recent years. I know this past year, I mean, the Oliva Serie V Milanio, you know, made as Nicaraguan Cigar of the Year for tobacco business. So that was a very
You were very
competitive
proud. You
category.
were very proud.
I think it came down to you and Perdomo were like kind of battling it out, and every week it was, you know, a little bit ahead by like 25 votes or so, and you all kind of pulled it out at the end. So I mean, obviously, I mean, people love your the Oliva
I'm
cigar.
still curious how many European voters we had on that one because I pushed some of this side of the ocean as well.
I'm pretty sure you had a lot. I mean, but it was a good showing, I would say, by the end result. But obviously, your push. I think you've definitely, like I say, have had lots of successes in recent years. So it kind of shows that your approach works.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm a lucky man, let's say it that way. You know, I mean, health-wise, having a good family, but then being able to do what I could do, I mean, yeah, it's a kind of, again, you know, I mean, I'm lucky, and we have to be thankful, but then also work hard. It's not that yeah, you know, I mean, we're made out of that we like to work hard, and you know, I mean, there are sometimes long days, and you travel a lot, but it's so great for me. I get the power out of meeting people, having a cigar together, having chats like that, and learn from other people and the things around. You know, I mean, it's a small world, but it's such a beautiful world. You know, and we have all the anti-tobacco bashing that we have on top of us. You know, I mean, and that really wants to kill us every day. I mean, it's very bad in the US, but living here in Europe, it's surely not better. You know, I mean, it's even worse. So I mean, in a way, you know, having then that escape of being in a business where people all have the same problems, but ah, they're all really gentlemen and nice people. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and on that subject, I mean, do you think the problem with it is that sometimes like legislators and these people who are making the laws and stuff, I mean, they don't really care about the stories behind the brands. Like a cigar product is not the same as a cigarette. I mean, it's a completely different story. It's a completely different product, even just ingredient wise. I mean, you're not putting chemicals into a premium cigar. It's the tobacco, and yet they group everything together. And I know that's been a big issue here in the U.S., especially the fact that, you know, a lots of the legislation in the past year has been fueled by e-cigarettes and vapor. E-cigarettes and vapor are a completely different category, completely different issue than a premium cigar. But when you're up there and the legislator, you don't care. You know, it's all the same. It's people.
Yeah, you have to explain them, but okay. I mean, in a certain way, I always try to turn around, and I want to put myself in their position. You know, I mean, imagine you're a legislator, and you have to decide about all products you find in the market. So, I mean, you have to make a new law on olive oil. What do you know about olive oil? You know, I mean, or about oils.
Right.
Let's say it in general. You know, I mean, all type of oils. And you make a decision, and the pure olive oil industry is really hit hard because of your decision. I mean, as long as the olive oil industry doesn't explain you what is so special about your production way of olive oil, and that because of you making olive oil, it's not the same like the others, and therefore you have X, Y, Z more, X things in your bottle. Yeah, I mean, if they don't know, they cannot make a law that is easy to understand. So I think that it's our task as well as industry. The difficulty is, of course, we're a small industry in a big tobacco world. So if you have to fight against the Juuls and all the guys in the vaping industry, yeah, I mean, we don't have 1,000 people on the road. We don't have billions of dollars, to spend on these things. So you really have to, as a very small industry, try to say like, hey. And the good thing about our product is, I think, the moment you explain it to a legislator and you have the chance to say like, look, understand our product, that a lot of people have respect for it, but it's still tobacco, so it's very negatively seen, especially here, but it's different tobacco, it's a tobacco that exists since 400 years, it's the purest way of, and I still do believe that. Look, in the 30s, you have been out of alcohol for a couple of years in the US as well. Yes, it happened. And imagine you were in the alcohol industry in these years. It has to be a disaster. But it came back. I also do think like tobacco I would be very surprised that 200 years from now, there would be no tobacco smoked anymore. I still do think people will smoke or indulge combustible tobacco that you put fire on and you smoke it. It will still happen, but I do think that it will go back to its purest form, which is a premium cigar.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was watching, there's a streaming show, the Star Trek Picard, and one of the characters in it, and this takes place in way in the future, and there's a character in it who smokes cigars. In this combustible and just way in the future past anything. So it's really funny that you say that because obviously cigars in this science fiction world are still a thing even back then, and he's sitting there smoking it and there's all this technology and stuff, and I was like, that's really interesting because you don't just see many TV characters these days smoking cigars and all that, but he's sitting there lighting up a cigar, has this little lighter and everything. So definitely think there's a future for cigars, apparently, at least according to Star Trek.
No, indeed. But indeed, education over legislation. My God, the guys are typing things here. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's my first Instagram live interview, I never did it before. And for the guys who joined just now, in Belgium, it's already 9 p.m., So the reason that I drink a beer is because it's late in the evening, Don't think that I'm a little drunk Belgian who drinks beers at 3 p.m. But
yeah, but so, and we have about 10 minutes left, and I think we have to talk about the fact that Oliva just in recent months opened up a new factory in Nicaragua, didn't you?
Yes, we did. That's one of the great things that the guys did. You have Ian and Corey you told about, but you have Fidel, and then the guys in Nica, with Eduardo and MJ, Pablo and Oscar, great guys. And look, one of the things that when you ask them what can maybe be done better, the Olivas did a fantastic job. They grew step by step. But it's like when you buy a little house, and then you have a little bit more money, and you add on a little piece to your house, and you add on another piece and another piece and another piece. After 20 years, 30 years, the kitchen is not at the place where it should be, because your house become a little puzzle or a jigsaw, where you don't find your. It's difficult to find your road because you really had to. So it was with a similar thing with the factory, where the factory was built as a small factory and then an add-on and add-on and add-on. And if you looked, it was not logical anymore. People were rolling cigars in little rooms there and there and there and there and there. And so one of the things they said was like, look, Fred, the people are paid per cigar, which is a classical thing in the cigar industry. So the more cigars they can roll, the happier they are. So they are very pleased with that. So they said like, look, if we could increase and get a little bit more flow or a better flow in that production and have the people not to let them wait for the tobacco and let them bring to their table and blah, blah. said like it would be great. So we took a look to the ground map and what we had and what we could do, and so they have drawn their dream factory, and we did it. You know, I mean, during production, which is almost impossible. You know, I mean, first the back side, then moving the front side to the back side, then the sides, then so a lot of moving around during the production without any disturbance on the quality, which was very, very important. So it took more than 2 years before we finished everything. And indeed, last December, we could open Tabolisa Uno, reopen, let's say it that way, you know, I mean, with, yeah, I mean, with a lot of nice things. And with two things that are, for me, showing what we want to do. One, we have made a corner with the table where Gilberto Senior was sitting every day. It's his table with his chair, with a picture of him in the background. You know, I mean, the founder of the Oliva, not the founder of the Oliva empire, let's say that way, but I mean the oldest guy that I met, let's say that way, of the Olivas. So Gilberto Senior hanging there and sitting. So it's with respect for the past.
Yes.
But at the other hand, we made a revolution in our Pilon area, where we have now automized in a way, you know, I mean, when you have the thermometers you put inside the pilones, we have now a thermometer inside a pilon that is directly connected to the Wi-Fi, and which gives us the temperature and the moisture of the pilon at every given moment. So every, I think, 5 minutes, every sensor is sending the information to a central database. And so where before people had to take out the thermometer, take a look, put a little dot, take a look how far it goes. I think when you want to make good or great cigars, I think every detail counts. And a pilon that goes a little bit over its temperature, you know, I mean, can be ruined, you know, or a pilon that is turned around a little too early can ruin it as well, you know. So that feeling of perfection, you know, I mean, is always there. And now with the digitalization, you know, I mean, we didn't change anything to the quality, to the tobacco, to whatever. We just added a little feature that made it much more easier for the guys responsible of the pilon area to know, like, okay, where are we? And the pilon is sending an SMS to the pilon area responsible, say like, hey, I'm at 105 degrees. I mean, you have to turn me at 110. I'm almost there. Or, hey, I'm at 110. Please turn me now. So it's like a new technology coming into an old-fashioned industry. And what I like about it is that you don't do anything wrong about the tobacco. You do exactly the same. You just are adding a little thing that is making it maybe a little bit better. So the combination of respecting the past and looking into the future is I think the part that I like the most in the new factory.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're kind of at the end of our time together, believe it or not, but
it's going too fast, Antoine.
I know, but that's what a good conversation is all about. As long as I think I have fun with kind of like hearing the story again and hearing some new parts to it, and I hope other people did. And like I said, what I'm hoping people get out of this is that there's so much more to discover once quarantines are over and people can get out, that when you go back into your local tobacco store and your retailers and you look at these brands like Oliva, you know, if you've never tried it or if it's been a long time since you smoked one, you'll pick one up and you'll think back to this, you know, the background story that you gave us, and hopefully people will, you know, be willing to revisit some cigars that they haven't smoked in a while, and these stories kind of help bring those things to life. So I want to thank you for, like I said, taking out the time out of your day to kind of speak to me and everybody who tuned into that. I think we had a pretty decent crowd today who came in, and I hope the quarantine thing kind of goes well for you over there and business can get back to normal, whatever that is, soon enough.
Let's see. But congratulations for what you did. And Antoine, know that also, if you want, one day we have great guys in Nika, and we can do maybe one day a virtual tour of the factory.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Definitely.
So you can, I mean, I will not be in Nika. I mean, I cannot leave my house, but the guys over there, I mean, the factory is still rolling cigars with respect of the social distance, with respect of everything. And maybe you can do a tour once with one of the guys there, so that they can show you how Tabu Uno is looking like that.
Awesome. I'll reach out and definitely will check into that. I think that'll be a fun little session. But thank you again, and I hope you have a good night and you can now enjoy your beer in peace and get back to your wife.
She will be so happy.
I'm sure.
Antoine, you too. All the best. Congratulations once again. I mean,
Thank
thanks
you.
for everybody who joined us tonight or this afternoon as well. And good luck in quarantine. Stay safe. And let's hope indeed when we're out that we can meet and reel and have a good cigar. And I don't know who mentioned it, but Gilberto Senior was indeed one of the sweetest guys I also met. I mean, great guy.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you later. All the best and good luck.
Same to you.
Cheers.